Oh, it started. Oh, hi, everybody. It's me, Coffee Stitcher. I forgot I had already hit the button. How is everybody this week? Awesome. That's really good to hear. Mm. Huh. So, we've got a lot to do today, or talk about, I guess, is probably the more appropriate term. Um, we've got whip updates, we've got Q&A, we've got a small scotch of haul. So we've got a lot to do, and I'm really, really very chilly. So hang on, I'm gonna turn one of the fans off. Hang on. Ugh, it's very cold in our room. Okay. All right. Ta-da! I'm back. Apparently it's gonna be one of those videos, people. Hang in. Fasten your seatbelts. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. All right. So we will dive into the Q&A. I'll show you my little bit of haul, and then we'll do this week's homework, next week's homework. All right. So there's one that was held for review. Hang on, let me. Okay. Okay, so the first question comes from Jane Patrick. Do you still use your Lowry frame? And if so, is it well made? And the answer is I do use my Lowry stand. I still primarily just use Q-snaps with it. I do have a roll of frame that I use when I'm beading. But yes, I do still use my Lowry. It's absolutely fabulously made, and it's probably the best stitching tool I've ever had. So, yes. The Mama Llama asks, I'm sure you've answered this before, but what stitch patterns are your dresses on the wall behind you? It's those. And those are the vintage Tammy dresses from Brooks Books. So winter, spring, fall, and summer in order. I did do a few small tweaks to them. I added more beads than she called for. On winter, I did a red shawl versus a white one because I had red fuzzy stuff and I didn't have white fuzzy stuff. That's really what boiled that down. But they were a lot of fun to do. Robin B asks, do you plan on doing any more of the Owl Forest patterns? I see they have some villains available as patterns and kits. The answer is yes. I do have Atlantis on the go. I've got Swan Lake and I've got Luca Mori, pattern-wise. Then I've also got, kit-wise, and then PDF-wise, I have the one that's the hedgehogs, and I have the one that's the New Year. I may have one other. I love a lot of their designs. The big problem is I don't want to pay for the kits. I really prefer to kit things up myself. They also don't give quite as large a margin for a border as I like with their fabrics. That's probably my one complaint. But overall, I really do like them, and I love their flosses. Their floss is very, very nice to work with. So there we go. I hope that answers the question there. So yes, there are more. She just released I really love the Swamp Witch, and I really love the Baba Yaga that she just released. I think those are awesome. Anna Jane asks, what magazine is Summer Patchwork from? And it is from World of Cross Stitching. What number is this? It's under the sticker, I think. Can I remove the sticker safely? Um, no, I cannot. Okay. Let's see. It's World of Cross Stitch. Why I hate how difficult it is to find issue numbers when you're inside said issue. Let's see, is there something in here that gives me an indicator? It's a World of Cross Stitching. Number 219. And it was in July. I'm going to guess, knowing me, it was probably either July of 14 or 15. I don't think it was July of 16. I was going to look and see, is there anything that has like a giveaway that you have an entry date by? Oh, 2014. Haha. So, July 2014. So, there we go. It's by Susan Bates. I wish Susan Bates would sell her patterns outside of magazines. Because I'm sure she's got more. I've seen others in magazines that I've really liked. But I don't have all those magazines. And I don't know what all's out there. And I'm not just going to go buy a whole bunch of magazines. So, if anyone knows Susan Bates, you might throw that out at her as an idea. Lynn McGill asks, do you frame all your pieces? That answer is no. Most of them end up in a bag in a drawer. Let's see. Almost Little Wonder says, could the delicate adjective also apply to the Nutcracker? This is part of homework. He's made of a delicate material, no. Ish. They're not made of... they're made of wood, primarily. What's delicate about them is their jaws, because that plays a very big key part in the plot of the Nutcracker. But, so yes, it could have, but I just went for the actual, like, the laciness of it. Novice Stitcher asks, is Universal Monsters a tiny modernist design? The answer is no. It's actually Witchy Stitcher. She's on Etsy. And she's got all sorts of cool witchy horror projects out there. So she's got some really cool stuff. Chelsea Olish asks, how many cross-stitch patterns have you done relating to The Wizard of Oz so far? So, we're going to count them, even though there was 12 of them. We're going to count the Brooks Books Oz as one, the Emerald City from Camelot Designs. I've done the Soda Stitch. I've done the Owl Forest. I did Little Stitchers, both her regular one and her free one. And then there's, on the go currently, both Quaker Oz and the Leslie Tier Oz. I've got a whole bunch of other charts too, but I think those are all the ones that I've done. And we're almost done with the Leslie Tier. We'll come to that in a moment, though. Laurel Ann made the suggestion of, what if instead of 3 finishes for 1 start, you did it by approximately equivalent stitch counts instead? The reason I don't do it that way is I prefer to start things as I feel like starting them and not giving myself quite that much of a limitation. I do sort of have a limitation myself. I try not to have multiples of the same designer at once because then I burn out. And, like, for instance, when I finish the Leslie Tier Oz is probably when I'll start Disneyland Map, because I tend to be more likely to swap a big full piece like that for another big full piece like that. But most of the time it's really just, what do I feel like stitching on? All right, and I think that takes me to the end of the Q&A for today. All right. So my one bit of haul this week, there will hopefully be more next week. Actually, there will definitely be more next week. Is I got my fabric for Three Musketeers. Now, it is 18 count teal Aida from Fortnite Fabrics. Look how pretty that is. So, and I'm going to be using this little fan needle minder. Unless I find a fleur-de-lis or something while I'm at Stitch Knitch today. More on that to come. But isn't it pretty? So I'm super excited. That starts Saturday. Ooh. So I will be starting that. I'm doing the mini one. Because I still have the big Pride and Prejudice to finish. And ultimately, while I am looking forward to the Three Musketeers, I have a feeling thematically it's not something that, as of now at least, is really going to be one that I'm going to go absolutely gaga over. So I thought I would rather do the full Secret Garden and probably the full Frankenstein more, and this will just give me one more little, like, small that I can quickly work on. So that's kind of the plan there. All right, so next we're going to talk about homework, which sort of brings me into... So last week when I did that big whip parade, I felt super overwhelmed afterwards. And I was like, oh my god, 25 is just too many, and I'm not seeing progress, and... That was how I was internally. I wasn't just walking through my apartment doing this. Although that wouldn't be actually all that atypical for me. My poor husband. So what I decided I would do instead is I pared it down from 25 to 13. So 3 sals that are active sals. Some of them are actually... Some of the others in my thing were sals at one point, but they're over now. So 3 actual sals to keep up with. That are all going to be fairly easy. And then 10 that aren't. So, so I pared it down from there. And I went back to setting goals. So, what I'm going to be doing is working within these 10, and then we're just going to find ways of making it fit the homework if I choose to do the homework that week. But I may also just be contributing to the big group tasks instead. Because I really don't want a whole lot of new starts, but I really want to get through some of these things. So I set goals since we were halfway through the month when I decided. So I set sort of small goals for this month. Next month we'll set slightly larger goals. So the 3... So I'll go ahead and show you what I'm... Ooh, nope. Here we go. No, I wanted saved, not groups. Saved. Okay, so we'll do the homework, and then I'll tell you on that homework piece what my goal is for the month. So the first thing I worked on... Well, I guess technically, last week, I did work a little on Wizard of Oz. After doing some thinking, talking, discussing, because a lot of people are like, oh, I thought you were almost done. I am actually going to go ahead and cut across the bottom here and call that the stopping point. So really all that's left is this little bit here. So I did finish out his cowl and I did some of the rope. So we'll start on his tunic the next time. And then we'll do the purple across the bottom. And what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to just take out those yellow stitches, since we have places over here where we've broken through the border, just so that I don't have to undo what I've done of Tin Man. And I may extend a little bit of Dorothy as well. But there we go. So I did do a little, but I didn't do a lot. Boop. Okay, where'd that bag go? There it is. So my goal is to at least finish half of what's left of Wizard of Oz. Alright, so then the next thing we did was Paradise Lost. And I did penalty stitches for that. I ended up doing 322. My goal for this month on it is half of a page finish. So here's where I got to on it. So I finished the wings of the angel, and I finished up a little bit on the bird, and I started the tree. So I'm going to do the top part of the tree, and probably the side parts of the tree, I think. And that'll be my page finish or half page finish. So we'll work on that. There is a chance as well some of my homework may shift, but I'll explain for next week, but I'll explain that when I get there. Because there's a couple of them I just sort of randomly decided this morning when I wasn't actually looking at the full pictures of the charts. Then the next was stitch on something that you think is delicate or dainty. And I did 332 stitches on Nutcracker by Soda Stitch. So I got the bulk of the top little section done. So my goal is going to be to finish the top section and do one of the corners. Nice and sparkly. Boop. Boop. All right. Then the next part of the homework assignment was to stitch on something related to the great outdoors or camping. So I worked on summer patchwork, and I actually did pretty much the entire thing in backstitching outline stitching, which was actually kind of fun. So I got the border for the ladybug and the bird done. I did actually not need to stitch as much that little section in there, but I didn't realize that. I wasn't paying attention to my pattern. So my goal is going to be 2 motifs, so finish those 2 boxes there. So, but here we are overall with what I've got done. So, I really love the colors in this piece. It's just so bright and pretty. Alright. Then the next one was stitch on something that could be hiding a trap door. So I worked on With the Needle, which features several buildings that could easily be hiding a trap door, at least if Scooby-Doo is to be believed. And I got 268 stitches in on this one. This one was a little slower going because I had, well, I partially wasn't feeling so swell that night, but I also had long stretches with the blue, so I was going back and forth on it. So that's where we got. So my goal on this one is to finish the grass and the sky for this month. So the grass isn't going to be too much more. The sky, not really either. And I haven't decided if I'm going to count the sun as part of that. We'll see. All right. So that took care of the homework. And then this week I wanted to go, worked on Jack's Halloween Dream. Those of you who follow me on Instagram probably saw this yesterday. But I got a little over 1,300 stitches, or a little shy of 1,300 stitches in on it. But I finished clue number 1. Ah. So this is on Bridget by Under the Sea Fabrics. So get a little closer and so you can see the sparkly, sparkly ghosts. Ooh, sparkly. So that was a lot of fun. So I worked on that. Did that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So that one is and that was my goal for the month on this one. What I'm gonna do for the next bit is for the next clue, because this one was a shockingly large, like, for being a stitch along that they released in 2 parts. I don't really understand why they did that, because that was a lot for the first part. I mean, that was just part 1. So what I'm going to do with clue 2 is I'm dividing it into 3 pieces, and each month I'll finish a piece. So, at least that's the plan. I may discover if it's the second part stitches up faster, I may try and do more, but as of now, I'm just going to try and do a third. So, that'll put me finishing it in April. Fingers crossed. Alright. So, this week's homework is more picky. This is the first really picky one. If we do it with no penalty stitches, then we'll get an extra 100 stitches in on Cinderella's Castle. So the first part is to read the following rhyme and stitch 300 stitches on something in the rhyme. So, this is weird, like a man with a beard, green skin and pig's eyes, frog's legs and fireflies, a dark cave with loud cries, a girl with tears in her eyes. So, green skin, I'm going to work on the Leslie Tier Wizard of Oz. Because that definitely had green skin, and I don't really think I have anything otherwise that has, like, nothing I've got has a man with a beard on it. I don't think. Wait, does Swift the Needle have a man with a beard? No, that man does not have a beard. Oz definitely doesn't. Nevermore definitely doesn't. Yeah, so I got nothing with a man with a beard. I don't have anything with a frog on it, I don't think. Again, unless Swift the Needle has a frog. It does not. It has a crab. No, wait, no, that's an octopus. Never mind. Yeah. So, nothing with a frog. No pigs, either. No fireflies. I don't have anything currently with a cave on it. And none of the girls, because I do have some things with girls on them, none of them have tears in their eyes. So, green skin for the Wicked Witch of the West. Yeah. Alright, the next one was each of the rides, because we visit in this book the Winnie the Pooh ride, Space Mountain, and, Space Mountain, and Splash Mountain, and Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. So, and they discover these letters. So, we have to do 100 stitches, 1 point for each ride, for 3 points total. And it's FME for one, YIRS for another, and TPN for the last one. So, I'm going to be doing, for FME, currently my plan is the Stitch Knit Sow, which I'll be showing y'all next week, because we go pick it up, and it starts at 1 today. But it's got flowers in the border. For the second one, currently I've got Summer Patchwork, because it's got roses in it. So, YIRS, roses. And the last one, TPN, is the Nutcracker, because the Nutcracker's in it. So, those are the ones I'm currently planning to work on. The last one is one of the characters is asleep. So we're supposed to work on a boring whip that puts me to sleep. So initially I was going to do Words to Live By and get another 400 on that. But I'm actually going to, not because it bores me, but just because I struggle with it. I'm going to work on Pride and Prejudice. So since I didn't show that one already, you can see that. So Pride and Prejudice. So my goal is going to be 400 stitches, which will hopefully finish out part 1. Because that was my goal on it, was part 1 to be finished. So I've got the little yellow things here, and then I've got a design, and a design. So, yep. So that is the plan there. I put this on the Q-snap to work on it one day, and then I didn't, and I just left it on the Q-snap. Because I have 2, so it's kind of okay. Alright, so, because I'm sure... Oh, I did have one other piece of haul, and I can't believe... No, I showed this last week. Never mind. I don't know what week we're in. I'll show it to you anyway, just in case if I already showed this to you, I'm sorry. But it's pretty, so I'll let it be shown again if it is. It's the January Fabric of the Month from Ship's Manor. Ta-da! 32 count Belfast. Alright, so. Okay. So the rest of the ones that I pulled as active whips to work on. Modern Folk Embroidery, obviously. The Stitch Knit Sal, which you will see next week. So Modern Folk Embroidery, wanted to finish part 1. Part 1 is finished. I just have to make sure I remember to take this with me to Stitch Knit today so I can get my missing, or get another stain of Mana Red. Let's see. So there's that. Pride and Prejudice, my goal was to finish part 1. Three Musketeers will be to finish part 1. The Stitch Knit Sal is to be determined on how much I want to try and get done in this month, because I don't quite know what the breakdown of the pattern is going to be. I know what the pattern is going to be. I can go ahead and show that to you. Stitch. Niche. There we go. So it's on the page. Excuse me. When the page finally loads, it starts today. It is. I want to say it's a Shakespeare's Needle. I may be wrong on it, but it's this one. But I don't know. It's going to be broken into 6th, so I don't know if this is 6 pages. I don't quite know how the breakdown is going to be. But there it is. So it's a TBD because I don't quite know what else is going to be involved in it. Wizard of Oz was a half-page finish. Paradise Lost was a half-page finish. Summer Patchwork was the 2 motifs. Nutcracker was top in 1 corner. Jack's Halloween Dream was finished Clue 1, which we finished. City Mouse and Country Mouse from Veronica and Ginger. The goal, I decided, was to finish the mice, which I did. So that one's done. There's that one again. Words to Live By. The goal was half of part 1, which I've already achieved. We'll do half of part 1. I think that's about half. Probably not, but we're going to call it close enough. And then Nevermore. So my goal on Nevermore is going to be to do the bats that are above the letters. So, so there we go. So those are the goals. So I'm feeling much more manageable about that. It does not mean that I'm going to have finishes super soon. But I think it's going to get me more on the right track. So there we go. Anyhow, that's kind of it for me this week. That's what we're going to be working on. I'm off tomorrow, which is exciting. So I'll probably I don't think I'll get the entirety of homework done tomorrow, but since this one is picky and we're not allowed to do penalty stitches, so we will go from there. But then we'll see what happens after that. So anyhow, I hope everyone is having a great week, and I will see you all next time.